Presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are St. Louis.
This is St. Louis Cardinals baseball. It's a day game. Folks gathering over at Ballpark Village. Huge crowd expected this afternoon for game number 2. The Washington Nationals and the St. Louis Cardinals. Arcia in the driver's seat. Bryce Harper, the reigning MVP, hitless last night. The Cardinals did not allow a home run to Harper a year ago. He's in the lineup today. Should be a lot of fun. That's Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Jim Hayes is here as well. It is the final day of the month of April, and this month has been defined by offense for the Cardinals, and a couple of rookies had led the way.
Every year you hope to get a spark from an unexpected place. The Cardinals have had 2 of those sparks. Aledmys Diaz leading all of baseball at .420, and Jeremy Hazelbaker has been terrific as well. He's in the lineup this afternoon. Both these guys are earning playing time.
Our Budweiser, what's on tap? Who would close this out this afternoon? Last night, Jonathan Papelbon got the final 3 outs. The Cardinals would love to see Trevor Rosenthal get that chance. It's Cardinals baseball, and it comes your way next. Back to 2008 at Fenway. Back to 2008 at Fenway Park. Adam Kennedy against the closer of the Red Sox at that time, Jonathan Papelbon. And Rick, that's the only time he has not closed one out against St. Louis.
And that seems so long ago, doesn't it? Dan Papelbon has been one of the premier closers in all of baseball, and he is pitching very well of late against the Cardinals. He's saved 8 of 8 since then. Rosenthal, 10 of 10 against the Nationals.
Jaime Garcia gets the call today. It's our first pitch, our starting lineups. It'll come your way next on your home of the Cardinals, Fox Sports Midwest. Sports Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser. This Bud's for you. By Chevrolet. Visit your local Mid-America Chevy dealer for great prices on the all-new 2016 Malibu. And by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. Let's hope the rain stays away here in St. Louis. A lot of rain overnight and this morning. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. 69 degrees, very cloudy here in the Gateway City. Leading things off, it'll be Michael Taylor. Had a leadoff home run in Game 1, followed by Anthony Rendon and Bryce Harper. Then Ryan Zimmerman, Daniel Murphy, Jason Worth. The switch hitting shortstop Danny Espinosa, Jose Lobaton, and Joe Ross, the pitcher. On the mound for the Cardinals, it'll be Jaime Garcia.
Garcia had almost too much movement his last time out. He walked 3, gave up 8 hits, and he was up against Zach Greinke. But you think back of that start he had against Milwaukee, where he had 13 strikeouts in 9 innings. When Garcia is right, he's unhittable.
You talk about the movement. It became a night in Arizona in which I thought it was one of the toughest nights defensively we've seen in a long time for Yadier Molina.
He got beat up that night.
He did. And a fly ball lifted out to left field. Over to get it is Matt Holliday. Different look in the lineup and defensively for the Cardinals here in Game 2. Holliday in left, Jeremy Hazelbaker is in center, Brandon Moss in right field. Carpenter, Tejada, Wong, and Adams along the infield. And Yadier Molina, after the night off, is back behind the plate. Around the horn presented by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Anthony Rendon, a career .303 hitter against left-handed pitching. Battled through a number of injuries a season ago. First pitch to the backstop.
There's an example of that movement we talked about, but a lot of the movement that Garcia had in Arizona were pitches down in the zone, especially his changeup. Yadi was having a hard time blocking it. It was moving and bouncing in every direction. And really, Garcia has as much movement as any pitcher we've seen for the Cardinals over the last 15 years. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would. Absolutely.
Not the hardest thrower, but the most movement.
Remember our conversation too with Mike Matheny before a game last year, and he said for any catcher that tries to catch him, it becomes a situation where you get handcuffed because of the late movement. Mike has done that with a number of these pitchers on his staff. 2 balls and 1 strike. Off the glove of Garcia, hit to short, and no play. A base hit for Rendon. Let's take a look at the Hyundai pitch arsenal for the Cardinals lefty.
One of the things that makes him so effective is the good mix that he has. The fastball with the movement. He also has an outstanding changeup when he's right. He throws it 20% of the time almost. And the breaking pitch, he'll throw it a couple of different ways. He opens it up, a little bigger break to lefties, but that down and in slider to right-handers can be a swing and miss pitch.
Here is Bryce Harper hitting .301. 9 home runs. He's driven in 24. Takes a vicious swing. And he drills it into left center field, tailing though towards Holliday, and he'll make the catch. It's a big out early on when you get Harper down.
This Nationals team 1, 2, 3 in their order. Michael Taylor 25, Rendon 25, Bryce Harper 23. So they are building a strong nucleus for the future, and you wonder how long Dusty Baker will be in Washington. He seems to be rejuvenated again, but he's got young guys at the top of his lineup, and they have Trey Turner, who was the best prospect I saw in spring training, 22-year-old shortstop, who will be here before too long.
So 2 outs and a runner at first. That's Rendon. And a ball to Ryan Zimmerman. Many ways the face of the franchise here for the Washington Nationals. They came into an existence in Washington in 2005. And the 1-0 pitch to the former third baseman. Instead, a check on the runner at first, Rendon. Picked up his first steal last night. The Nationals, with the win last night, now 15-7. The Cardinals are 12-11. They have won 7 of 10 on the road this year. I think a bit surprising when you look at the Cardinals, 5-5 at home. They have never had a losing season here at Busch Stadium 3.
I think that'll change over time, but it has been surprising. A lot of it has been because the pitching has been so good at home. That's what's carried that record. This year, we've got a Cardinal team that's being carried by the bats more than the arms.
1 ball, 1 strike on Zimmerman. Inside. And when you think about home and you think about pitching, you think about Jaime Garcia. He is terrific in his career at Busch Stadium. As a matter of fact, in his last 5, he's 3-1 with an ERA of 1. Opponents only hit 167 against him. Let's see if he goes with the changeup on a 2-1. He does, and it's taken low.
You have the signs?
Hitters count. Ryan Zimmerman at the plate. Changeup is the call.
Makes sense.
.29-16, his career mark here at Busch Stadium. And it's a 2-out walk. And the Nationals put a man in scoring position for Daniel Murphy. Mentioned it last night. Outside of Harper and Murphy, the offense just has not clicked for the Nationals.
Murphy was a free agent signing after a year ago being the NLCS MVP. And he has always been a contact hitter. He's finding holes, hitting doubles this season, a couple of home runs, 10 RBIs, but Murphy a year ago only struck out 38 times. He puts the ball in play. Garcia will be a challenge from the left side with that movement.
So 2 outs and 2 on. You mentioned the MVP last year in the postseason, 4 home runs during the Mets sweep of the Cubs, also homered in games 4 and 5 of the division series, and had 6 consecutive postseason games of the home run.
Good timing for a guy looking for a free agent contract.
I'd say so. Outfield fairly shallow. Straight away. And an 0-1 pitch to Murphy. Hit into center field. Hazelbaker coming on. On a hop, he takes it, hits the cut, but the throw is wide. And now a runner will advance into scoring position at second base. It's 1-0 Washington on the RBI, number 11 for Daniel Murphy.
Odd ending to this play. You mentioned the outfielders playing shallow, so they would have a chance of throwing out Rendon at the plate. Hazelbaker charges it well. The throw is up line towards the first base bag. Matt Adams hasn't gotten over the mound yet. In this ball, he lets it go, and a little miscommunication perhaps between Molina and Matt Adams about whether or not to cut that ball or not. Yachty thought he was going to cut it. Matt thought he was supposed to let it go. And the result, the runners take an extra base.
So it puts Murphy in scoring position along with Ryan Zimmerman, and now it's Jason Worth, who singled late in game 1. Nice play by Molina to keep that in front. Those 2-out RBIs can be killers. And then when you give an extra base defensively, it can really stand out.
2-out walk didn't help either.
No, sir. So 2 hits in the inning, a walk, and a 1-0 lead for the Nationals. Worth is hitting just .191 this year with 3 home runs, and he's driven in 9.
Such an easy thing to say, Dan, and we've talked about this before. Hard thing to accomplish, but a pitcher, job is to finish his pitch, finish the batter off, finish the inning off, and finish the game off. And if you do those things, again, they're just words. It's complicated to get it done, but you have to find a way to be a finisher.
Worth signed that big contract with Washington. He has been with the Nats since 2011. Originally was with the Blue Jays all the way back in 2002. And at that time in his career, he was a catcher. And some really good years on championship clubs of the Phillies. Here's a 2-1 pitch. And Worth hits it out to deep left field. Holiday going back, and this ball is gone. It's 4-0 Washington. Number 4 for Jason Worth, and they have put up a 4 spot here in the first inning.
This is a Nationals team that has not swung the bat very well, other than the 2 guys you mentioned. Their team batting average low. They haven't slugged very well. Their pitching has carried them. But a good start here as that pitch just sat there in the middle of the plate. Didn't have the good bite to it. And Worth hits his 4th home run of the season.
There's Danny Espinosa. And he looks at a strike. Well, one thing you think about too, Ricky, with Jaime Garcia, you think ground balls. We've seen 2 fly ball outs.
Right.
Now the home run. Ball taken inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Calling the balls and strikes is the crew chief, Jeff Nelson. Doug Eddings down at first. Laz Diaz at second. Ben May is at third. The 1-1.
There's a base hit up the middle that Jaime almost caught, and then Tejada almost made a play on. Then the walk to Zimmerman. Then the base hit to center was not well hit by Murphy, so things really weren't going Garcia's way, but then Worth certainly put his stamp on this inning.
One ball and 2 strikes. A 4-0 lead for Washington here in the top of the first. And a strikeout, the first of the afternoon for Jaime Garcia. You'll see him in an upcoming episode of Teen Wolf 16. But until then, he makes it 4-0 with a 3-run shot. Washington. A lot of lefties in this lineup for Mike Matheny today. Jeremy Hazelbaker will lead it off, followed by Matt Carpenter, then Matt Holliday. Adams will bat cleanup, a home run in game 1. Yadier Molina, Brandon Moss, Ruben Tejada, Colton Wong, and the pitcher Jaime Garcia. And the Cardinals will face right-hander Joe Ross.
Ross off to a good start. He's 2-0. Fastball in the low to mid 90s. And you're going to see a lot of fastballs and sliders. He has a changeup, but for the most part, he's a two-pitch pitcher. Still very young, still developing his style, 22 years of age, 6'4", 225. Strong guy with a bright future.
Joe Ross, drafted by the Padres in 2011, 25th pick overall. And his older brother Tyson, acquired by the Padres in 2012 and part of their rotation. He was hurt. We saw them last weekend. And a fastball and a strike. Before Joe could break in the big leagues, A.J. Preller, the GM of the Padres, sent him packing to Washington. The Will Myers deal. It's a 3-team trade. 0-2 the count. Tyson, his brother, slightly bigger at 6'6", and Joe 6'4", 230 pounds. 0-2 pitch, hit out of play. Hazel Baker, Dusty Baker. Dusty was saying he couldn't believe that the Padres were willing to part ways with Joe Ross.
Well, they wanted Will Myers, and he's done a nice job in that Padres lineup, and you've got to give up something to get something, but you normally don't give up on a #1 pick who has an explosive arm like Ross has.
Here's a 1-2. 2-2. How good was Steven Strasburg last night?
Oh, I believe the changeup that he was throwing in the middle innings was as good a changeup as I've ever seen because of the velocity. Rosenthal has the same kind of deal coming out of the Cardinals bullpen. When he throws a 90 or 89 mile an hour changeup, it's just so hard to hit that because you're geared up for the gas, and it's still hard.
That's a base hit inside the third base line. Hazel Baker with a leadoff stand-up double here at the bottom of the first. Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's defense for Washington as we go around the horn. Worth, Taylor, Harper in the outfield. Rendon, Espinosa on the left side of the infield. Murphy and Zimmerman on the right side. And Jose Lobaton is behind the plate. All he does is hit.
I like him in that first spot in the order too, because he does a nice job of protecting the plate, working the counts, and he also runs well. So we see Matt Carpenter in the second spot. We've seen him in the third spot within the last week on a off day for Matt Holliday.
Carpenter showing bunt, looks at a strike. Let's go back to Jeremy Hazelbaker.
So you protect the plate. It's a late swing. Put it in play. Good things happen. I know that Matt Carpenter prefers to bat first, but I like him #2.
Most around baseball talk about him. They look at the numbers. They realize how good they are in that first spot, but because of his power, some believe he should be down in the order. But this is where the numbers show you just how good he's been here, how comfortable he is in that leadoff spot.
When you're trying to get guys off days, there are times you just have to mix and match the best you can from day to day. You mentioned all the lefties in the lineup today: Piscotty, Grichuk, Diaz, Jerko, all on the bench from the right side. They'll factor into this before it's over.
Fourth double of the year for Hazelbaker. He's at second base. And an 0-2 instead of check on Jeremy. Tried to steal third in the Milwaukee series, our first homestand, and was thrown out. He has 2 stolen bases on the year. Began our telecast talking about the rookies and the impact they have made, and Hazelbaker has been a big part of that. 0-2 pitch. Carpenter goes down to get it, hits a fly ball into right. Catch is made by Harper, and not tagging up Hazelbaker. We know Harper has a tremendous arm. Former catcher as well, just like Worth. He can play all three outfield spots.
Well, he got back to the bag by the time Harper catches the ball right there, but he just wasn't comfortable testing the arm of Bryce Harper. They have plus arms in the outfield from left to right. Harper has the best one, but Worth has a plus arm for a left fielder. Taylor has a plus arm for a center fielder. I just think he was too cautious there, perhaps. Didn't want to get thrown out at third with a 4-0 deficit.
I think he's got to be at third. Here's Holiday. A double off the wall in left center. 3 home runs. He's driven in 13 and batting .268 at the start of play. You know, we talk about it all the time with defense, and it shows up a little bit more than maybe, let's say, base running. But that's little things that you have to do, especially when you're down by 4. Here's an 0-1 pitch to Matt Holliday. Nice play by Lobaton.
And another little thing. I'm not sure there are any little things in this game. They're all big things.
One ball, 1 strike, and 1 out and a runner at second base. Just missed on the outside corner. Thus far, this has been a pretty tight zone here from Jeff Nelson.
We've got a 4-run hill to climb. One step at a time.
Harper very deep in right field. And a ground ball that's hit to the right side. Daniel Murphy makes the play. So we take a look at the Hyundai pitch arsenal for Joe Ross.
Talked about him being a 3-pitch pitcher. That sinking fastball is a hard one. 93, 94. And that's a lot of sliders to be throwing for a starting pitcher. You normally don't see that high a percentage for somebody who's a starter. You see it out of the bullpen. That slider, by the way, he was taught how to throw it, how to grip it by Papelbon. Changed his grip. So you have coaches and you have teammates. You can learn from a lot of people.
Here's Matt Adams, opposite field home run last night. Cut the lead to 5-4. And with this shift on, Hazelbaker can get way down the line. So if a ball scoots away, and with his speed, he should be able to score.
Absolutely. And if he'd have gone second to third on the fly ball to right, he would have either scored by now or he would have been out at third and the inning would be over. We'll never know.
Here's a 1-0 pitch to Adams. In the dirt. Puts a lot of pressure on Lobaton.
Sure does.
It's not only blocking the ball, but also, and I think Yadi's terrific at this, it's kind of like a goalie in hockey where the rebound, you can't let it get too far away.
We know that when there's a runner on third base, normally that can influence pitch selection because of the concern for the wild pitch and a pass ball. Think about what shifts have now done. They've increased that concern.
2-1. They talk about injuries in the game, and Mike Rizzo has been very cautious with his players. So we talked about that with Steven Strasburg last night. Sat him out in the postseason a few years ago. Today's starter, Joe Ross, had a blister that affected mechanics and then led him to the DL. Inside. 3 balls, 1 strike. You can tell, though, Ross has got a big-time arm.
Very smooth delivery. Ball jumps out of his hand.
3-1 pitch. And Adams hits a high fly ball into right center. Michael Taylor is under it and puts it away. Hazelbaker, after a leadoff double, left stranded. 1 inning in the books. Let's take a look at our Toyota keys to the game.
Yadier Molina rested yesterday, and that should make him a little more energetic today, especially catching Jaime Garcia. Of course, not a good first inning for Garcia, but I think that was a smart move yesterday for Jaime to have a rested Molina today. Also, the Cardinal bats. Keep swinging. Whatever you're doing, don't change a thing. Yadi, by the way, when he's rested, he has a way of his personality leading the team. You know, if Yadi has a bad day, it has a ripple effect. And I think when he's energetic and healthy, he is the leader on the field.
First time Jaime Garcia has allowed 4 runs in the first inning at home in his career. Highlighted by the 3-run home run from Jason Worth. 2 balls, no strikes on Jose Lobaton, who's off to a slow start, batting just .174. Two and 1 the count. The Cardinals out-hit the Nationals last night 10-7. Just 2 for 8 though with runners in scoring position. And the other factor, they struck out 10 times in the middle of the game. Strasburg just got better and better. Here's a ground ball. Hit to short. Ruben Tejada. 1 away. How many times, though, do you see, Rick, where a pitcher has a rough first inning, especially a guy that is so comfortable here at home? You face the bottom of the order in inning number 2, and then all of a sudden it just seems to jumpstart you.
You find your groove. I think that happens a lot, and Garcia hoping to do that here this afternoon. You just have to forget about that first inning, and very difficult to do that because your expectations when you go on the mound every day, you're thinking shutout. He's had one of those this year. He knows he can do it, but when the start is bad, it's a mental exercise of just turning it over to the next inning and starting over again.
I don't know if you saw this, but last night Adam Conley, a rookie left-hander for the Marlins, 7 2/3 of no-hit baseball against the Brewers. It took him 116 pitches to get there. Then Don Mattingly said, this guy is our future. That's enough. We're going to pull him. They blew the no-hitter, but to put in perspective, the one-hit shutout that Garcia had, it took him a total of 104 pitches in that Thursday afternoon game against the Brewers. Milwaukee, by the way, in that game turned a triple play. You never know what you're going to see when you get to the ballpark. Triple
That's
play
right.
and a near no-hitter.
That's the fun of it. What are we going to see this afternoon? Maybe something we've never seen before.
Something that we're seeing more of this year, the fastball from Jaime Garcia. And very good movement. A 2-2 pitch to Joe Ross. Puts it in play. Hit to second. Ross gets down the line fairly well. And Wong makes the play for out number 2. 3 things you need to know. Trevor Story ties the rookie record with 10 home runs in the month of April. The Mets, speaking of home runs, Yoenis Cespedes grand slam, part of a 12-run third inning against the Giants, and there's that triple play we spoke of last night against the Marlins for the Milwaukee Brewers. Michael Taylor had a tremendous spring, maybe the best of anybody in baseball. And he looks at a strike, off to a slow start. Came in hitting 195, did have the leadoff homer last night. Here's the 0-1 pitch.
Taylor runs well, but I wonder whether he's miscast as a leadoff hitter long term. Doesn't walk very often. He's only walked 4 times this year, and he has 26 strikeouts. Not the kind of ratio you're looking for with your leadoff batter.
Here's the 0-2. Cardinals wearing their alternate jerseys, Saturday home games with St. Louis on the front. The cream color of the jersey, the lining of the red. They call that piping, as you well know, Rick.
Of course.
They changed the uniforms a couple of years ago, and the bird on the bat is actually a little bit bigger. This Bill DeWitt III went back into the history of the Cardinals, really dissected the uniforms, and it's an ode to the past. 3-2 the count. And a strikeout for Jaime Garcia. Nationals go in order. Second strikeout of the day for the Cardinals lefty. We head to the bottom of the second. Washington on top. It's 4-0. #1 live streaming sports service delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. You never get sick of seeing that kind of shot here at the ballpark. The fathers with their daughters and their sons here and taking in a game. Rain is going to stay away. And then you got to load up the kid with the Coca-Cola, the cotton candy, the hot dogs, and wait for some type of explosion emotionally from that child.
And then you may deal with the question when you get home, you gave him what?
Exactly.
But you can work through that. That's okay.
All of a sudden on the way home, they start bouncing off the windows in your car, and yep. You've had a good day at the ballpark.
Sounds like you know about this through experience.
Do I ever? You know, my brother is 6'6". He's a big guy, right? You know,
Yes,
you grow
he
up with
is.
a guy that's 6'6" and
Yeah.
plays football in college. He could put away some food. Well, then you see your kids and you realize when they come to the ballpark, your brother has nothing on them. That's hit out of play.
But it's about more than just food, obviously. It's explaining the game and talking about some of your moments.
See, now that dad probably got him here early at the ballpark to get the giveaway. Started early, and now the crash is coming. You got to space it out. Take in the nachos. Make sure you've got the napkins, because that white jersey will be cheese filled in about a half hour.
And always share.
Molina off the end of the bat. This may drop. No, nice catch over the shoulder by Danny Espinosa. How cute is that?
That's adorable.
Here's Brandon Moss hitting .224. He puts the ball in play. He's going to do some damage. 5 home runs, number of extra base hits, all told. And looks at a pitch low for ball 1.
The more I watch Brandon Moss, the more I think of him as a dangerous hitter when the pitcher makes a mistake. I think if you get a hanging slider, maybe a fastball, poor location, he has the ability to make you pay for that. Certainly strikes out a fair amount, so pitchers can pitch to him. He has some holes, but the power potential, I think, is intriguing.
And it outweighs strikeouts in today's day and age of baseball. Just the way the game's played.
I don't think you can have 8 players in your lineup like that, but it's okay to have a few.
Yeah. Damage. 2 balls and 1 strike, so certainly a hitter's count right here. Cardinals trailing 4-0. Inside.
But think about the damage point that you just made. If the 2 guys in front of you struck out, your damage is not as great.
So the point being, have some contact guys there, on base percentage, hitters in your lineup. The 3-1 on the inside corner.
I think you'd say Matt Carpenter and Matt Holliday are those guys. High on base percentage guys. They both draw a lot of walks.
And coming into play today, Molina's been on base in 17 consecutive games. The 3-2. Moss hits it to second, and from the outfield grass, Daniel Murphy puts him away. So following the leadoff double, 5 in a row set down by Joe Ross. Whitey Herzog is back at the ballpark here today. Just a couple of booths down from us in a private booth. And as we talked about last night, he doesn't miss much. We've got our evening with Whitey coming up, which will be in 2 Mondays. And a few seats do remain. If you want to hear from the White Rat, head down to the field, picture with the '82 trophy, get an autograph from Whitey. It's really a neat night. that we've had over the years with the Hall of Famers. That's at Cardinals.com/Whitey. Cardinals.com/Whitey. It's a Monday night and an off night for the club after their game against the Dodgers, which will be a Sunday night game. One ball, one strike with 2 outs and nobody on. And you are invited. I'll get you a ticket too, Rick.
I appreciate that.
I'll comp it because that's the kind of guy I am.
Can't disagree with that. Whitey also, by the way, got an invitation to his golf tournament. The Whitey Herzog Youth Foundation does terrific work helping ball fields in the greater St. Louis area, and that will be at Forest Hills in September. Looking forward to that.
He's done a lot
Never
for youth
miss
baseball.
It. Yes, he has. Well, he's passionate about the game. That's what's so fun to be around him. If you don't see him for 3 months, and you just happen to run across him somewhere, he'll say, "Well, let me tell you what I think about Piscotty, and here's why I think he's going to be a good player." And he'll just go into thoughts and analysis of Cardinals baseball in a in-depth and very smart way.
Cardinals.com/Whitey to get those tickets. A couple of Mondays. One of the great shots you see when you come to the ballpark. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Ford, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. And get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. Back at the ballpark as we move to the third. Anthony Rendon will lead it off. 2, 3, and 4 in this lineup against Jaime Garcia. And a strike. You know, that pitch right there, I'm not sure if it was a strike. It was called a strike, obviously. But if you go by the letter of the rule book in the strike zone, you don't see the high strike called. And Rendon, it's a high fly ball out to left field, backing up Holiday. He just missed that.
Yes, he did.
Kubota power stats. Home run leaders for the Nationals: Bryce Harper, Jason Worth, and Michael A. Taylor. The point being about the strike zone, you want to see more offense, the strike zone. That's something to look at too. Call it. So pitches have to go up.
Wait a minute. Who wants to see more offense?
Well, generally speaking, Rick, and you being a former pitcher, do not want to see more offense. But
I don't want to see less offense.
I think the idea is we've seen power pitching come into the game, and it's been a big factor. Offense was down a year ago. As Harper yanks that foul.
Cardinals already trailing 4-0 in this. I've seen plenty of offense, by the way. And on the road trip, talk about offense. Is that what the Cardinals did to the Diamondbacks starters?
Hey, Rick, will you just play along a little bit here?
I'm playing along. I'm presenting the alternative view.
Harper out in front of that pitch. I get what you're saying.
I am not an advocate of every game being 1-0, although I think there's some great 1-0 games, because you start thinking about what to do with your starting pitcher and bunting and moving runners over, and it brings out some of the essence of the game. I don't want every game to be 1-0, but in some ways 16-14 feels more like a softball game.
Off-speed pitches, 3 in a row by Garcia. He strikes out Bryce Harper, and that's number 3 today.
Very impressive pitch. This guy is one tough hombre at the plate, and that was nasty from Garcia. And you were on it and hoping that Jaime would be able to flip the switch after that first inning. Last 6 batters, a couple of strikeouts, a couple of ground balls in there. Looks much better.
Now it's Ryan Zimmerman. Walked and scored back in the first inning.
I've always been a proponent, if you do want more offense, and I'm understanding that you do, and that
actually I don't,
and that many do. Let's just say many do.
I'll play along. Unlike others.
Thank you for leading by example. I think it's a bigger deal on what you do with the inside outside corner. Because to me, if a hitter has to cover a pitch away from him and cover the inside corner and the plate is wider, I think that leads to more defensive swings. I think up and down you adjust to differently, but in order for the guys to drive the baseball, if you can eliminate corners, it's like putting it on a tee for
yeah. That's on the inside corner. Back-to-back strikeouts. He gets Harper and Zimmerman.
Thanks for playing along. Appreciate you playing along.
No problem, Rick. That's why I'm here. back to Studio 54. We could go.
Very 70-ish, right?
Sure was.
Enjoyed that. Again. Brian McCann does a great job with those video montages. We call them in bumps. I just learned.
We call them in bumps. Here's Colton Wong, who's batting .216. No home runs, no extra base hits so far. 0-2. Outfield is straight away for Colton Wong. No balls and 2 strikes.
Colton has been experimenting with having less of a pronounced leg lift. His front leg, he lifts for power and for balance and to get his swing started. And there's some say that doesn't work for everybody. And he's always done it. He's considering doing a little bit more of a toe tap.
She is so excited, she's in tears. Caught that foul ball, gets a souvenir here at the ballpark.
And now she's on TV crying. High five.
And a strikeout of Colton Wong.
Now he's giving it away. Wait a minute. There's that low strike.
It's off the mask of the catcher. If she reacts like that to a foul ball, what would she do if she got a Ricky Horton jersey delivered to her by Rick Horton today?
I think she'd cry some more.
In pain or excitement?
Maybe. There it is. Now it's on social media. Creating memories here at the ballpark.
I guess she's situated down the left field line. Is that right?
Are you trying to get rid of me?
No, I think we should go get her a jersey of some sort. And for being a great fan, we'll deliver that jersey and try to get a reaction.
There she is.
As Jaime swings and misses. You want to do it?
Let me text Jim Hayes.
Jimmy is over in the studio, but I bet he could break away. 6 is a serious number at On the Run. When the Cardinals score 6, any size drink just 50 cents the next day. That's coffee, fountain, or frozen drinks. When they score, you pour it. Your nearest On the Run. You earned it. Hazel Baker, strike one. He doubled his first time up.
So Jaime, Dan, is settling in. Unfortunately, so is Ross.
Outside the double by Hazel Baker is not allowed a hit. And he looks sharp. Out in front. That was near the booth and I started to tear up.
You want me to go down to the clubhouse and get you a baseball, Dan? I can. I mean, I'll be right back.
The view from Ballpark Village. No balls and 2 strikes on Jeremy Hazelbaker. Taken just a bit low. That double, his 4th of the year. Cardinals have had 6 rookies of the year. Wally Moon, Bill Verdon, Bake McBride. You saw Vince Coleman and Todd Worrell, and we all saw Albert Pujols. Here's a 1-2 pitch to Hazelbaker. Instead, time is called. It's starting to get a little dark here at the ballpark.
Noticing that. And a little cooler.
Two and two. Here's a 2-2. And a strikeout of Jeremy Hazelbaker, and that is 4 in a row as he strikes out the side here in the third. We head to the fourth. Washington on top. Drop in that we have to read. The Blues, Fox Sports Midwest, they're in the playoffs. We've already given away street pole banners autographed by the entire team, and there's still time to enter. So go to the Fox Sports Midwest Facebook page for more information. Enter today for your chance to win. That's pretty cool.
And the sun's back.
There's Daniel Murphy, 2-out RBI back in the first, as all 4 runs were scored with 2 outs. There's a strike, 1-1. Daniel Murphy was asked before the game today, what has been your success? Why are you on this run? And he said, I know you want a long, complicated answer. I don't have one, but here it is. I get one pitch I think's in the zone, and I go hammering. But my mindset is to find one pitch, and when I get that pitch, I'm driving it.
And when you are in the zone, you always pick out the right pitch. And that's pitch recognition, which is the deeper answer to what he just said. The simple answer is you get the right pitch, but how do you do that? Well, you do it by having a good understanding of the strike zone and seeing the ball well.
Here's a 1-2 and a strikeout for Jaime Garcia. So second time through this lineup, he has faced 5 and struck out 4, and he's got 5 strikeouts total. Missouri Lottery Fox Tracks.
downward movement of Garcia. You also saw him hook the ball in his glove, which is unusual. Rick Sutcliffe used to do that, created movement. You actually bend the ball in towards your wrist, and it's not normally suggested to do that, but it works for him. It creates that movement.
Now Jason Worth, who had a 3-run homer back in inning number 1. 1 out and nobody on. The home run for Worth was his 4th, as he picked up RBIs 10, 11, and 12. Hits it the other way. Shallow right, drops in for a hit. Snaps a string of 8 in a row set down by Jaime Garcia.
2 different swings from Worth in this game. One smokes one to left. Here he goes the other way with the sinker.
One of the reasons why Jason Worth went to the outfield from catcher, just look at how tall he is. Struggled a little bit defensively there, then dealt with some injuries. He could run, and he was a threat to steal at one point in his career. Now Garcia would love that ground ball double play. Fastball taken low by Espinosa, struck out back in the first swinging. Here's a 1-0. Instead of check on the runner at first. No stolen bases yet this year for Worth.
Jason's stepfather was a former Cardinal catcher, teammate of mine, Dennis Worth. Very funny guy, good teammate. We saw him here at the ballpark a year ago. It was great to catch up with him. He may be here today. Would not be surprised.
1-0 pitch. There's your ground ball. And there, oh no, not the double play. So 2 outs, and it brings in Lobaton.
Well, Colton Wong has had some issues with this, the transfer from glove to hand. The timing, the thought process are not in sync for him. The hands are faster than the mind, or the other way around, and he just can't get the proper timing on that play at second base. Dan, I see you have a baseball in hand.
Well, we know it's not a foul ball, but this ball is going to that young lady. We're going to send it down.
How's that right?
Yep.
Boy, that's nice of us. Are you writing a book on there?
Hold on. Hit up the middle. Wong flips. Got him. What a play. Colton Wong. He makes up for it.
Nicely done.
He's so good ranging to his right and takes a hit away. Outstanding. Shortstop side of the bag, the transition, and the lead to Ruben Tejada for the out. fans ages 16 and older take home a Cardinals Performance t-shirt with pink accent colors, courtesy of Power of the Pink. For more information and tickets, visit cardinals.com/promotions. Cardinals looking for some offense in this game. Just one hit as we head to the bottom of the fourth, and a 4-0 Washington lead. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Jim Hayes is over at Ballpark Village getting set for the postgame with Al Raboski. Mother's Day coming up. Rick, are you ready?
Not yet.
Better get on it. As Carpenter takes a ball outside. Outfield is straight away. Carpenter lined out his first time up. 1 ball, 1 strike. And a ground ball that's chopped to first, knocked down by Zimmerman. Plenty of time, and Ross covering the bag.
This game has really settled into a pitcher's duel, but the Cardinals can't afford for that to happen. They got to start chipping away here. Of course, we're only in the 4th inning. There's the backhand play by Zimmerman, former third baseman. Feel a little better if they could pick up a run or two here in the middle innings.
It's 10 in a row for Joe Ross after the double by Hazelbaker.
He's been battling the blister. You talked about it earlier, and it's something that's ongoing for him. It's in his middle finger, and it's on the pad of his finger. And you say a blister, well, that's not a big deal. You're a major league player. You ought to be able to deal with that kind of pain. But what that does for a pitcher is it often messes up their feel, especially a guy that's trying to throw sinkers and sliders. But he does not seem to be affected by it right now.
You get the feeling that Holiday is getting a little bit more locked in as we go along here.
Oh, yeah.
Grounded out to second his first time up with a hard hit ball. Good cut there. It fouls it back. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Oh, his night last night, he hit 2 balls over 100 miles an hour, had 3 hits. A couple of runs scored. Yes, I would say he's a dangerous guy to pitch to right now.
1 ball, 1 strike. This guy's nasty.
Good slider. Very good slider. You mentioned he throws it a lot. And why wouldn't you? Had a nice tilt to it, both down and away, and sharp break.
One ball, 2 strikes. Seen Ross a number of times, especially with the guys in the middle of the Cardinals lineup. He has shook off his catcher, just getting the pitch that he wants. Did you shake off a lot, or did you,
yes,
work with your catcher and just say, well, I'm going to go with what he puts down?
Some more than others, but I have a view that pitcher should always throw what he wants. Catcher's offering a suggestion.
Shallow center. Taylor is there. Reminder, tomorrow NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing heads to the big one at Talladega, the Geico 500, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. will look to defend his title from last year beginning at 11:30 on your local Fox station, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go.
I think I learned that growing up watching Jim Palmer on TV. He talk about pitching and even watching Jim Palmer pitch. He was a terrific Cy Young Award winning, maybe he didn't win a Cy Young, but he's a Hall of Famer for the Orioles. But what he would do is he would do the addition or subtraction on his chest once the catcher gave a sign. He would add or subtract, and he would just throw what he wanted.
First Cardinal hit since back in the first, and it comes off the bat of Matt Adams. Look at our Chevy Fox tracks. The base hit to left for Adams.
Well, Matt's starting to use all fields. A couple of hits yesterday for Adams. There's an example of a pitch inside that he hit the other way.
Now Yadier Molina.
What I say about the shifts, Dan, is I think it's too simplistic to say you shouldn't pitch a guy away if you're having a big shift on him, because the reality is a lot of times the ball on the inside half is easier to hit the other way because you have that little inside out swing. You often on a ball away, especially if it's something soft, roll over it and hit it to the right side anyway.
2 outs and a runner at first, and Molina hits it foul. Took an over-the-shoulder catch by Danny Espinosa in shallow center to get Yadi his first time up. Going to play behind Matt Adams. I agree with this because Adams is not a threat to steal, you wouldn't think. Plus, Yadi is so adept at going the other way.
Exactly.
Strokes it into center field. Back-to-back hits.
Maybe a little 2-out magic brewing here in the fourth.
Nationals scored all their runs with 2 outs in the first. Well, here's what you were talking about earlier. Brandon Moss, and now a chance to do some damage.
A hanging slider, and you've got a new ball game.
An 11-game hitting streak for Yadier Molina. And now 17 in a row that he's reached base overall. Moss grounded out to second, first time up. And that pitch taken high. Here's a 1-0 to Moss. Nearly hit him. Nationals have been trying to do that along with the Diamondbacks in that series in Arizona. A lot of teams busting him in.
Probably see a fastball here if you're Moss. You zone it middle in, belt high to thigh high, a little box. If it's in that box, you're ripping.
The 2-0. Went with an off-speed pitch. Moss didn't like the call, and neither did the fans. 2-1.
Both pitchers have been getting low strikes.
Ooh. The shift is on here for Moss. Second baseman Daniel Murphy on the outfield grass. 2 on, 2 outs, and a 2-1 pitch on its way. Inside again, almost hit him.
Again, you're ahead in the count. So you pick out a little small zone. If it's outside of that, you can take it because you'll get the same pitch 3-2. Again, shaking off the catcher.
The 3-1. Changeup.
He doesn't throw very many, and he's thrown 2 in a key situation in this inning with a couple runners on. That's not fair, learning a changeup in the middle of a game.
Would he go back to it here?
Don't hang it.
Three-two pitch. Out in front. Popped up into shallow center. Taylor is there. So back-to-back hits by Adams and Molina. Nothing to show for it. We head to the fifth. Nationals on top. Got him out in front. Keeps the Cardinals off the scoreboard. Lobaton and Ross having a conversation after that inning and just going over what they want to talk about in terms of pitch selection.
Well, you have to communicate. There's more than one way to do it, but the pitcher has to believe in what he's doing. Catcher is offering the suggestion, but he's got a pretty good idea what's going on as well, so you have to know when to trust him. Really important relationship.
So here's the pitcher, Joe Ross. Then we'll have the top of the lineup. 4-0 Washington. Just joined us. Washington with 4 2-out RBIs. And that was in the first inning. Here's a 1-1. Fastball taken low.
Perfect example of a kind of game where as a pitcher you can't be worried about what the other guy's doing. And as good as Ross has been, if you're Jaime Garcia, you have to stay focused on your job. Stay in as long as you can and just hope that eventually your team will get to him.
Second walk issue. A reminder, we have the Mike Shannon jersey giveaway coming up Saturday. A week from today, 30,000 fans ages 16 and older receive this one-of-a-kind Shannon jersey, courtesy of Goodwill. Visit Cardinals.com/promotions. That's on May 7th. And the reason why it is on that weekend, we're coming up on the anniversary of when he hit the final home run at Sportsman's Park, which was May 8th of 1966. And then the first Cardinal home run was May 13th at Busch Stadium too, and Mike Shannon hit that. So that's the tie-in with the jersey. So get up, baby, get up, get your jersey. Presented by Goodwill. Here's an 0-1 pitch to Michael Taylor. Ground ball. Can they turn two? Out at second. The turn there by Wong. Much better.
Colton happy for another opportunity. That ball was hit hard. Taylor runs well. No issues for Colton on the exchange.
It's worth repeating about what Mike Matheny said, talking about Colton Wong and, you know, when you wear your emotions on your sleeve and how it affects your play.
Yeah, I thought it was a great conversation. Mike was talking about the difference. Somebody said, well, he's competitive. He's emotional, he's competitive, and Mike was really defining the difference between being competitive and being negative in your self-evaluation. And I think that's a bad thing. And so for a player to show emotion on the field and say, well, that's always great, well, that's not always a sign of competitiveness, and Colton certainly is that. But when you beat yourself up on the field, that's not productive. Yes, you care about it. Yes, you're emotional. Yes, you're confident. Yes, you're competitive and you want to win. But when something goes wrong, you can't wear that too long. You have to find a way to let it go, especially in this game.
The 2-0 pitch. 2-1.
I think there was a day years ago or time years ago where people would say, and even in the minor leagues, they'd say, oh, that guy's really a competitor when they throw their helmet and throw their bat. That's not competitive.
Some may say false hustle.
Yeah, that's just throwing a fit is all that is.
Rendon, infield single back in the first, scored a run and also flied out to left. Taps it foul.
Not that I'm not completely innocent there of ever having done that.
I can't see you throwing a fit.
Well, the way I'd throw a fit is after a bad game, I'd go into my locker and I would throw my glove at my clothes hanging up on my locker until all of them were off the hanger.
How long that take?
Well, usually I had a bad day. My control wasn't good. It'd take a long time. Seems kind of silly now that I think about it.
I figured you'd throw a fit if somebody took your 90.
What? Where did that come from?
Well, you know, sometimes you could be a kid. I've watched you on the golf course. Miss a putt.
Happens.
You really would do that, though. Wait till you're all your clothes.
Yeah, they're all on the hanger, and the extra T-shirts you have, extra uniforms, and just fire the glove right at them until they all come off. Try it; it's fun.
Sounds like a blast. Do people just watch you do this?
I don't know. I was in my little zone.
The question would be, did you throw hard enough to get the clothes off the hanger?
Not always.
Hey, I got to go after you said my hit at fantasy camp last night wasn't a line drive laced into right for a walk-off base hit, which it was. You said it was the worst hit you'd ever seen in organized sports.
I did say that. Truth hurts sometimes.
.2-0 pitch to Harper. 2-1.
Important at bat right here for Jaime. Working in the middle of the game. You don't want more two-out problems.
2 walks in the inning. Rendon, your runner at first base. A count of 2-1. Harper's flied to left and also struck out.
It's the thing about having a guy like Harper in your lineup. I mean, you might get him out, You might get him out a couple of times. You might get him out for a day. But he steps up to the plate with a runner on board in the middle of a game, and you still tense up a bit because you know what he's able to do, how he can strike quickly. 9 home runs, 24 RBIs.
Big pitch here, 3-1 on Bryce Harper. Ground ball, chops it to second, backing up Colton Wong, and he makes the play. Harper 0 for 3. They've kept him in check, but still the Cardinals trail by 4. We're midway through 5. Washington on top. Baseball brought to you by Steel Outdoor Power Equipment. Quality, reliability, and value. Find a servicing Steel dealer at steeldealers.com or search STIHL. And taste the all-new Double Jack Burger today only at Jack in the Box. Here's Ruben Tejada. Harper is hitless this afternoon. And Tejada takes a ball low. You know, if you would have said that Harper would be hitless in the series with the way that they were hitting coming into play, you would say, well, the Cardinals have a good shot of winning. Lost last night 5-4, trail 4-0 here in game 2. Tejada with a base hit into center field. So 3 of the last 4 Cardinals with singles against Joe Ross.
Pretty short stroke that time for Tejada. There are times where his swing gets a little long, but right on that one. Really do like him at shortstop. He's a smooth fielder. What a good time for a gapper from Colton Wong, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be nice?
Needs to get going. Wong struck out his first time up. If you're wondering, the young lady that caught that foul ball and then had an emotional moment, to say the least, we have sent a ball down to her with a tissue. And if the Cardinals come back, forget the rally squirrel, rally tissue. Oh, 1 pitch. Wong hits it into center field. That'll drop for a base hit.
Good at bat, Colton Wong, and talk about competitive. That was important to him. You can see almost some anger there in his demeanor.
You know, Garcia handles the bat so well.
Yeah.
This might be one of those times where you do see the bunt shown and then let him slap it the other way. Hard thrower on the mound, maybe.
For fans new to baseball and maybe for others that don't know this nuance of the game, the best place to bunt the ball with runners at first and second, if that is indeed what Garcia is doing, is to the third baseman. You want to make him make the play.
It's bunted to Ross. Thought about going to third. And Garcia has his 4th sacrifice already this year.
He did a nice job of deadening that ball towards the third base line. The pitcher was able to field it. You hold the bat at the bottom of the strike zone. You have a little give. Deaden the ball. Ross. That's a smart decision right there.
Because he could really open the floodgates then. Have the bases loaded, nobody out. There's Jeremy Hazelbaker. Going back to the bunt for just a moment. How many teams do you think bunt purposely to Zimmerman because of his throwing issues? Maybe part of the equation.
I would say that's a great point.
It's uncomfortable to watch him throw.
It is, and it was the last couple of years of him playing third base. And really the reason, the third baseman, you want him to get off the bag because he can't cover third. Now teams will put on the wheel play. In fact, that's what the Nationals had on that last play where the shortstop was going to cover third behind Rendon. But you still have better opportunities for success if you hit it to third usually.
Lobaton keeps that in front. 2 balls, no strikes on Jeremy Hazelbaker.
That is always a pre-series discussion about bunts, and look what we have here. Oh my, and the tissue to follow. Are those real tears again?
That's the young lady that caught the foul ball earlier. That's great. We put on the oh, you're welcome. I said kind of jokingly to Tim Garcia, who delivered the ball, bring a tissue just in case. And the inscription on the ball said, "We know it's not a foul ball. Thanks for being a great fan." And then we signed it for her. Go Cards.
You know what she's saying to the guy on the left? Who's Dan McLaughlin and Rick Horton?
Yeah, I kind of think so too. It's some guy that's out in the bleachers that was watching on his iPad.
Another high five. Don't leave her hanging.
Rally tissue.
More work to be done.
I think she just blew her nose. I'm not sure I want that going in the Cardinals Hall of Fame. The 2-1 pitch to Jeremy Hazelbaker. Inside.
He's starting to get a little more erratic with his fastball, Ross. He's pulled 3 of them across the plate, trying to get that inside strike against the Cardinal left-handed bats.
Now a 3-1 pitch to Hazelbaker. Inside, bases loaded, and the tying run comes to the plate. First walk issued by Ross, and here comes Mike Maddox. They say he has worked wonders already with this staff.
Yeah, he's a guy we haven't talked about yet in this series, but Dusty Baker has a lot of faith in him, and so does the staff. Yeah, this is a staff that leads the National League with a 2.35 earned run average. Now they've got some horses too, but Maddox is a very, very smart baseball man, and his words of wisdom now headed in the direction of 22-year-old Joe Ross, who's in his first jam of the day.
So Carpenter comes up with the bases loaded and just 1 out. He lined out to right. also grounded out sharply to first.
Good numbers with the bases loaded for Carpenter. Here's the question. Do you swing at the first pitch? You just walk the guy in front of you. Is he going to throw one right down central to get ahead? Is that the best pitch you're going to see? Or do you make him work?
Carpenter pulls it foul as he was out in front. That off-speed pitch has been a really good out pitch today for Ross, has it not?
It has. Sliders, everything's been good. But the last couple of innings, it seems like the fastball is the pitch he has the least command with.
No balls and a strike on Carpenter. Pitch number 77 coming up here from Ross. 2 base hits in the inning and a walk. He does such a good job of holding up, not committing all the way.
That's where Carpenter's aiming.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Matt Carpenter. 2-1. You think about different times in a game of when you get a shot, and this may be the game right here, even though it's only in the 5th.
He's on the ropes, but he's got a bit of a cushion too.
Bases loaded, and a 2-1 pitch to Carpenter. Carpenter drives it into center field. Taylor will make the catch. Runner will tag up from third and score, and the Cardinals get on the board. It's now 4-1 Washington. RBI number 17 for Matt Carpenter.
Take a look at a pitch by pitch of that at bat. Carpenter ripping at that first delivery and able to lay off on the slider down and in. Changeup misses high and away. Ross has to come get him again, and Matt drives that ball into center field. Very good at bat for Carpenter. St. Louis has picked up a run, but it might feel a little disappointing if that's all they get in this inning.
Runners at first and second for Holiday. He represents the tying run. Matt is sitting on 3 home runs. Little bouncer that's hit to short, and a force play to Murphy at second base. So the Cardinals strand 2. Holiday is hitless today. They pick up a run. We head to the 6th, and it's 4-1. the playoffs. Post-game shows after every game. Watch player interviews. Hear from the guys who know the Blues best. Missouri Lottery Blues Live. Post-game shows. Coverage continues Sunday after Game 2. We'll have Cardinals baseball followed by the post-game. Gentleman that was wearing the blue sweater looked to be an Al Raboski fan. He had the Fu Manchu.
Who isn't an Al Raboski fan?
There he is. Maybe it's Al just getting ready for the post-game in a blue sweater.
Could be.
4-1 Washington. Here's Ryan Zimmerman. Well, take away that first inning, and Jaime Garcia has been really good.
Walked a couple batters in the last inning, but has allowed just one hit since that first inning. And there's that low strike that's been a strike all afternoon.
Zimmerman walked and scored in the first and was called out on strikes in the third. 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 4 hits allowed. Ouch. Off the plate and then off the helmet, it looked like of Zimmerman.
I think that might have hit him in the face even. Let's see what happens on the swing. There's the sinking action on the ball. He hits the top of the ball right off the side of the face or helmet.
One ball and 2 strikes. Outfield is deep. Center fielder Jeremy Hazelbaker shading just a bit the opposite way, and a ground ball that's hit to Tejada. 1 away. That's 8 ground ball outs from Jaime Garcia. And all coming from the second inning on.
Pitch count coming into this inning just 76 for Garcia. Could see him going 7.
It's only 4-1. And we know about the Cardinals pinch hitters and the thump that they have provided, especially late innings. Murphy, a 2-out RBI base hit, run scored back in the first, and struck out. Second time up, the check swing taken for a ball.
The Garcia deserves a lot of credit on a couple of fronts, Dan. Number one, he's been injured so much, it'd be easy for him to give up. Think about the long hours of rehab that he's had a couple of times and wondering whether he'd ever be able to pitch again. And now not only is he pitching, but very competitively in a big part of this rotation.
Out in front, and a high fly ball into right center. Who wants it? It'll be Brandon Moss.
But secondly, Jaime has overcome the thought that was out there early in his career that he was such a creature of habit that he wasn't very good at making adjustments. Derek Lilliquist has worked with him, and of course Jaime's got to do it himself, where something bad happens he doesn't unravel anymore as he could have this afternoon. You have to be mentally strong to be able to turn the page that quickly and get back on track and just finish strong, and I think Garcia's shown that he can do that.
There's no doubting his stuff. When healthy, he produces. Jason Worth looks at a ball.
That was the thought early in the career about why he pitched better at home than on the road. I think there was truth to that he was just more comfortable with the warm-up style, the being at home, all the things that go along with it, just more orderly for him.
Look at that changeup. 1 ball, 1 strike. All of a sudden he's gotten locked in, has he not?
Yes, he has.
Man.
There's the changeup grip. Really doesn't spin any differently than a sinker would, but you've just choked the velocity by holding it with all your fingers. deep in your hand.
There's Tejada, another ground ball out. And since the first, Garcia has allowed just one base hit. Midway through 6, 4-1 Washington. Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance feeding Missouri and the St. Louis Cardinals teaming up to hit a home run tomorrow. Bring a non-perishable item to Ballpark Village and the parking lot over there from 10 a.m. to 1:30. Receive a voucher for 2 free Cardinals tickets to an upcoming home game. There's a baseball card collector. You don't see many of them anymore. I was and still am.
How many do you have?
Boy,
You haven't counted
thousands.
I believe I have 4,700.
And you're being serious, right? About 4,700 cards?
4,700 cards, yes.
I think since early 1980s, I have every Topps collection set still in plastic. Never pulled them out.
Most of mine are from the late 60s, early 70s.
I used to save up my money to go get the Bob Gibson card at a card store, a Lou Brock, Stan the Man. And a leadoff walk to Adams. BJC Healthcare difference maker is Cardinals catcher Yadier Molina. This season, first in starts and innings caught. Only 9 stolen base attempts against him. Last Cardinals catcher to reach 18 straight games, Tom Pagnozzi, 1996.
Been very impressed with Yadi, especially understanding that he had a couple of surgeries and you just never know how he's going to respond to that. But he has been driving the baseball, catching durably, a lot of energy.
A second walk issued by Ross. Molina a single to center field and a pop out, 1 for 2. Double play ball. If Murphy can get there, he does. Flips it. Double play, 4-6-3. Mentioned last night how he's made that conversion to second base. Not great defensively. You want his bat in the lineup, but nice play there.
The Nats have been a good defensive team through the first month of the season. They have the fewest errors in all of baseball.
Only 6.
The Cardinals have the most.
Just foul off the bat of Moss. Oh for 2 today. He is fly to center and also grounded out to second. You'll be okay, young man. Kid was a little scared. I don't blame him. He's a rocket. They want to give him the ball for the souvenir.
Do we have any more tissues left?
Just going to say that.
I'm in your head.
Scary. Here's a 1-1. Moss, a base hit. So 2 outs and a base hit into right brings in Ruben Tejada.
Cardinals have started to zero in a little bit more on Ross. So another visit from Mike Maddox.
It's 5 hits in the last 3 innings.
And we remember the Cardinals punch that they have on their bench. So this game's long from over. Cardinals trailing by 3, but with Piscotty, Grichuk, Diaz, Jerko on the bench, that's some firepower. The Nats have 3 left-handers in their bullpen: Solis, Rivero, and Oliver Perez, and 4 right-handers.
Kelly, Papelbon, Trinan, who we saw last night, and Yasmero Petit. Short lead at first by Brandon Moss, and here is Tejada. Ball 1. Tejada singled to center field and scored on the sac fly RBI by Matt Carpenter in inning number 5 to account for the only run for the Cardinals today. It's 4-1 Washington as we play here in the bottom half of the 6th. Tejada with a fly ball. There is Jason Worth. Cardinals strand a runner. They have stranded 6. We head to the 7th. 4-1 Washington. rocket arms, and the average velocity, the fastball, Trevor Rosenthal at 97, Martinez 95.1. Couple hard throwers. Martinez set to go tomorrow. He's 4-0. Max Scherzer 2-1. Great matchup.
We've not seen Trevor Rosenthal in a long time. Resting up for his bobblehead day, I guess. I would think you'd have to get him in this game today.
Agreed.
No matter what. For an inning.
Here's Danny Espinosa. Strike one. Well, you thought that Garcia would pitch into the 7th, more than likely his final inning of work. Due up second. Pitch count at 87 today. Strike two.
Well, it won't be a quality start for Garcia, which is 6 or more innings, 3 or less runs, but a quality comeback for Garcia after that 4-run first. It's giving his team a chance.
Oh, and he hit Espinosa. Ball just ran in.
Like that might have hit him on the hip. And hit him hard. No, but it's the knee. Even worse. Had a loud popping sound to it. That's the outer part of his knee. Tried to dance out of the way, but he danced the wrong way.
Here's Lobatone. Showing bunt. Takes a strike. Oh for 2 today. Showing bunt, but you have the pitcher on deck.
Thought that was odd too, unless you're planning on pinch hitting for the pitcher.
They do have a lefty throwing in their pen. Pushed foul. Cardinals have a righty, that's Jonathan Broxton.
Now Lobatone came into play hitting 174, and Ross was hitting 429, which may factor into it, but I do think it's odd to bunt with your 8th place hitter here, especially when you have the lead.
It's Solis took the place of Matt Belisle, the former Cardinal, went on the DL. He made the club for Washington, pitched for Dusty Baker in Cincinnati on the DL with a calf issue.
Lobatone playing, by the way. Wilson Ramos is the regular catcher for the Nationals. He's a good one. He swings the bat well. He's on the bereavement list currently at a grandparent pass, so he's out for a couple of days. They called up Pedro Severino to be the backup catcher. Lobatone getting the starts.
0-2 is fouled back. We see Lobatone a lot in spring training.
We do.
Fairly lengthy trip from Space Coast Stadium in Florida to get to Jupiter, so not a lot of the regulars make that trip, and so Lobatone gets the call to be the catcher.
31-year-old veteran. He's from Venezuela. A lot of his career with Tampa Bay. Switch hitting catcher. Valuable asset to have. Cardinals have one. Unfortunately, he's hurt right now in Brian Pena. But I would say Eric Fryer is doing more than adequate.
Threw out a runner last night. He's hit close to 700. Runner goes and a good jump, and it's hit out of play. The Cardinals catch a break there. That would have been a stolen base for Espinosa, as one on the year.
But with 2 strikes, you can't take it. got to swing it.
Here's an 0-2 pitch. Struck him out. 6 today for Jaime Garcia. Plaza Tires Fox Tracks.
Well, the bunt didn't work, so they let him swing away, and he was a little tardy on that ball up in the zone.
Almost as if he was waiting for something off speed. So 6 strikeouts, and it brings in Joe Ross.
Well, you know that expression. You always have to look for the express, then you can always catch the local, but it doesn't work the other way around.
Ross, by the way, at 93 pitches. He was showing bunt there. I don't think it's much of a surprise that the starters, and they've pitched well, so that's a big reason why, but they've gone deeper into games this year, and that's Dusty Baker. I mean, Dusty Baker did that in Chicago and Cincinnati.
That's his style.
Yeah. Ball 1.
Everybody's going to have their opinion about, well, we all have our opinion about everything, but Dusty Baker can be a lightning rod as far as Cardinal fans are concerned. You either love him or hate him, but I think he's a great combination of kind of an old school guy in a lot of ways. Many years as a great player, but he's also thinks young, and players manager, players like him. I admire Dusty Baker.
1-0 pitch. Ground ball. Let go by Carpenter, and Tejada commits the second error by the Cardinals today. But you'd have to wonder if Carpenter distracted Tejada on that play. Second error committed by Tejada on the year.
I think it clearly threw off his momentum a little bit in terms of how he was going to field that ball, and certainly seemed to bother him. Tejada normally very sure-handed, and error again for the Cardinals. That's 23 on the season.
Chevy called to the pen. It'll be a double switch. Jonathan Broxton coming on when we come back. Strawberry lemonade. It's available all summer long, and it's only at McDonald's. It's a double switch. Aledmys Diaz takes over at shortstop for Tejada, and Jonathan Broxton is into the ball game. And there's a look at his Hyundai pitching arsenal.
70% fastballs, also has a slider, and I think the slider is morphed into really a third pitch that he's developing and starting to use more and more that didn't make our list there, and that's a changeup and has a split finger grip on it, and he has been effective pretty much every time out. And interesting that we're not seeing Seth Maness in this situation. Typically in the past it's been his role, and if Garcia would have been fortunate enough to get that out 6-3, he'd still be in this game anyway.
There's Michael Taylor. Potentially too, Rick, it could have been a double play with Carpenter reaching for it, the pitcher running from out of the batter's box. So it ends up being an error on Tejada. Cardinals double switch. So Broxton is in the 7th spot in the lineup, and Diaz will be in the 9th spot and due up second for the Cardinals, looking ahead to the bottom of the 7th. Taylor today is flied out to left. He is struck out and grounded into a double play. It's been a very good start to 2016 for Jonathan Broxton. Tenth appearance, a 1.04 ERA, 8 2/3. Jonathan has walked 7. He has struck out 11. Gets a ground ball. Carpenter, only play is to go across the diamond for the out. And with 2 outs and runners at second and third, the batter will be Anthony Rendon. Rendon, a base hit off of Jaime Garcia's glove back in the 1st. Infield hit scored on the RBI by Daniel Murphy. It was a 4-run first inning. He's also flied out to left, walked, and then erased on a double play in the 5th.
Interesting, the Cardinals do not have a left-hander up to face Bryce Harper.
That's drilled into right field, and the catch is made by Brandon Moss. That's a big play there. Time to stretch here at the ballpark. The Gateway Honda home run inning. Cardinals hit a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Randall Grichuk will pinch hit for Colton Wong. Then we'll see Aledmys Diaz and Jeremy Hazelbaker.
A couple of interesting things, Dan. The Cardinals did not have a lefty up to face Bryce Harper if that would have happened. Second interesting thing to me is that Joe Ross
hit for himself.
Yeah. And he's out of the game.
Yeah. So Ross, 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, walked 2, and struck out 4. Here's Randal Grichuk. First pitch is taken high by Grichuk from Solis. Randall is 0 for his last 15.
Cardinals
average at 192.
Cardinals, Dan, have hit .319 this season, 7th inning and beyond.
And a lot of that done by their pinch hitters late in games. Cardinals pinch hitters, a big story of the season thus far. With 17 hits off the bench, 7 home runs in the first month. Three balls, 1 strike on Randal Grichuk. So Lease gets it up there in the mid-90s.
Here's the fastball, hit it. Grichuk, by the way, can hit a fastball.
3-2. It's it out of play. A count of 3 balls, 2 strikes on Randal Grichuk. He strikes out. We've talked about this Cardinals offense, and Wong and Grichuk are off to slow starts, and those are 2 guys that you thought if you were going to have a above average offensive club, those 2 would be putting up numbers.
But you were not factoring in Hazelbaker and Aledmys Diaz numbers into that equation. But they've been the spark, and you know, if you're the spark long enough, you become part of the fire, don't you? I mean, they're not just starting things. They've gone quite some time now with being effective. And I don't know if it's going to last all season or not, but you ride it while you can.
Diaz pops it foul. Right below us, crowd of 42,723 here today. 42723. Diaz comes in hitting .420. I think the amazing thing about Aledmys so far, the lack of walks, or rather strikeouts. He's only struck out 4 times. Seeing the ball very, very well.
Hardest to strike out in the National League currently. Another thing I didn't see coming with him.
Diaz chops it towards third. Rendon gathers it up. Throw is offline. He also can run. So he got down my first baseline very quickly.
Not sure how this is going to be ruled. Rendon on the backhand. He's a pretty good defender. A tough play. Comes up with it, then airmails the throw, and he might have been safe anyway.
It's ruled an error. Tough call. Now Jeremy Hazelbaker. He has doubled inside the third base line, struck out, and also walked. Sean Kelly, a right-hander, throwing in the pen. You would assume to be getting ready for holiday. Solis is nearly 250 pounds and 27 years of age. Big guy, 6'5". Here's the 0-1. And an 0-2 pitch to Hazelbaker. They've got some good arms coming out of their pen. Treinen was throwing mid to high 90s last night with a good slider. Here's Solis. And a 1-2 pitch. Off speed pitch, and Hazelbaker strikes out. Hit a home run with the Hilton St. Louis at the ballpark and the St. Louis Union Station Hotel. Choose one of our Cardinal baseball packages. Score for your team. Go to HiltonSt.Louis.com or call 314-421-1776. Doesn't get any easier tomorrow. The Cardinals face St. Louis native Max Scherzer. Solis pitched in 18 games a year ago. And a ground ball hit to Daniel Murphy. And a scoreless inning by Sammy Solis. 4-1 Nationals as we head to the 8th. Takes over at second base. Remember, Colton Wong was pinch hit for, so Jerko takes over at second. Washington with a 4-1 lead. It's Harper, Zimmerman, and Murphy against Jonathan Broxton. Broxton in relief of Jaime Garcia, who went 6 1/3. Only gave up 4 hits. And all 4 runs scored against him were in the first. Struck out 6, walked 3. First pitch to Harper is taken for a ball.
Turned into a very pleasant day at the ballpark here this afternoon. We had a lot of rain in the forecast, but we ended up getting most of it during the night. And nice crowd on hand again for Saturday baseball at Busch Stadium. It'd be nice if the result got a little better.
I wonder if the Cardinals would see if that error on Rendon would be changed to a base hit. That's the league's leading hitter in Diaz, and you're playing at home. That's a tough play.
Yeah, I thought it could have gone either way, and I'm okay with the call. But the Cardinals do have a process. Every team has a process of challenging a ruling, which I think is a fair thing. That just you present your case, and MLB will decide after the fact if the error really was an error or a hit. And you kind of do that judiciously. You don't do that in every single play, but if you really think you've got a reason, there's a process.
And a walk to Harper. Nationals have received 4 walks today. Broxton was able to get the final 2 outs in the 7th. As Taylor grounded out, then Rendon lined out to right. There's Ryan Zimmerman. We'll see if Harper wants to do some running.
Harper walked his 4th plate appearance last night and was caught stealing by Eric Fryer.
First pitch to Ryan Zimmerman. A long look by Broxton. Here it comes. Inside. And they're going to claim that hit him. Home plate umpire Jeff Nelson says that hits him.
Sounded like it hit him. Thought I could hear a little clip on that fastball in. So hard to tell, but you can hear it. Their home plate umpire Nelson was reacting to sound more than something he saw.
Looked to me like Zimmerman was a little surprised that was the ruling. A shift on here for Daniel Murphy, who is 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run scored. Sun is peeking through the clouds here at Busch Stadium for the first time in a while. And a 1-0 pitch to Murphy instead. Check on the runners. Cardinals will have Holiday, Adams, and Molina coming up. Lefty continues to throw the pen for the Washington Nationals.
Seth Maness backing up Broxton in case he runs into more trouble here. 2nd inning of work.
Broxton is almost off the pitching rubber, working on that first base side. Lined into center field for a base hit. Harper will be waved in as the ball gets away from Hazelbaker. And Zimmerman able to advance to 3rd. Third error on the Cardinals.
I don't think Harper would have tried to score because he held up on the line drive. Took him a long time. He's not at 3rd base yet, but he is now as the ball gets away from Hazelbaker. There's the indecision. Reasonable thing, and he was going to hold up. So 3 errors for the Cardinals today.
And now it's 5-1. Here's Jason Worth. A 2-hit day, 2 for 3. The big hit in this game, a 2-out 3-run homer back in the 1st. Infield is drawn in.
I think you leave Broxton in here because you need the strikeout first. If you get the strikeout, then you need the double play. Maybe that's when you go to Maness.
Murphy faked going to second base. With that fake, it was a good jump. Jason Worth, our Nissan drive of the game, and a 3-run homer back in the first. And for Worth, that was home run number 4 on the season. Nobody out, runners at the corners, and an 0-2 pitch. Jonathan telling us the other day that, you know, consistently he could throw 98 to 100. He said, don't doubt me. Summer gets here, warms up. There are days I feel good, and it just flies out of my hand.
Got to 96 on the last road trip.
One-two pitch. One ball, 2 strikes on Jason Worth. The next to the Nats left fielder. Out of play.
He's searching right now to figure out the best way to get a swing and a miss. He went up with the fastball up in the zone, tried to get him to chase. Off-speed pitch down, tried to fool him. The cat and mouse game continues here. Worth just trying to put the ball in play. Infield in. RBI opportunity for him. He's thinking contact. Broxton's thinking swing and miss. Fastball in, perhaps.
One-two. They set up in. He got it there. Line drive into center field. Hazelbaker diving catch. Runner will tag and score, but that takes a hit away. Zimmerman scores, and Washington adds to their lead. It's now 6-1. Good play by Jeremy Hazelbaker.
Nats have 6 RBIs from 2 players, Murphy and Worth. And there's the dive. Nice play by Hazelbaker.
Talked about it last night, how the Cardinals have really dominated the series between the 2 teams, especially here at Busch Stadium. Last series win at Busch by the Nationals was May of 2007. It's a long time ago. So 1 out, runner at first, and Danny Espinosa hit by a pitch last time up. 0 for 2. Nice look with the arch in the background. Chance to see the on-deck man up close. The speed of the game, the speed of these pitches from Broxton.
Sometimes we get a chance to pick up the audio of the game too when we're close. We have our mics close to the field, and sometimes you hear things you don't want to hear. Sometimes you hear things you do. But I think that's an interesting part of the game as well. The communication that goes on from the benches.
Broken bat and a fly ball into shallow right. Brandon Moss makes the catch. Out number 2. And the batter will be Lobaton. Lobaton is 0 for 3. The switch hitting catcher, 6-1 lead here in the top of the 8th. When you make the long trip back from Arizona, they say usually in sports it's not the next day but the day after that
right.
it affects the players. Did you find that?
Yeah, it does physically. I think, again, they're happy to have the job, happy to come to the ballpark and be doing this for a living, but for physical excellence, being at the top of your game, yeah, I think that's true.
And by no means am I saying that that's an excuse as to why the Cardinals are down 6-1. But it is something that you have to deal with.
Well, and the other teams deal with it when they travel. And honestly, if you talk about travel issues, Cardinals have it better than most.
Absolutely.
Living in the middle of the country. The
West Coast, Seattle.
Seattle has it the worst. They travel the most miles by far of any team in baseball.
It was Andy Van Slyke when he was a coach. He told me they traveled something like 42 or 44,000 miles.
I heard the number from Andy too. I can't remember what it is, but it was a lot.
And a ball outside. So 2 walks in the inning. Broxton had 26 pitches. That may be it for him. And it is. So with runners at first and second, Seth Maness coming on when we come back. It's our Chevy called to the pen. His 9th appearance, the high ERA. Just trying to get right. 14 hits in his 8 innings of work. We may see Maness get the final 4 outs for the Cardinals in this game. A couple of Hall of Famers here at the ballpark. Those jerseys, Stan the Man, Lou Brock. See the Gibson jerseys and the Suter and Whitey, La Russa. There's Clint Robinson. Runners at first and second.
By the way, it was 51,000 miles that the Seattle Mariners flew a year ago. Shows me that Andy Van Slyke is watching our broadcast.
And enjoying a nice nap.
Nice to have you watching, Andy.
1 ball, 1 strike on Clint Robinson. What have you seen with Seth Maness this year?
Well, I'm not even sure I like the 4 walks from Seth. Normally he's a command and control pitcher. He's been up in the zone too much. The command's not been what it normally is. Trying to find a way to get that sink.
There's your ground ball hit to second. Jed Jerko, and the Nationals strand two, but they add to their lead.
Sports Midwest is brought to you by Bud Light. Raise one to right now. And by your local Volkswagen dealer. Turned into a nice day here at Busch Stadium, but the Cardinals running out of opportunities here. Felipe Rivero is pitcher number 3 for the Nats. And the middle of the order scheduled for the Cardinals. Holiday, Adams, and Molina. Just 2 more chances. There's the numbers for Rivero. This is turning into a very good Nationals bullpen. They have an overall ERA in the mid-2s. And it's been a strength of this ball club.
After watching Joe Ross pitch today, I'm wondering what the Padres were thinking. His ERA is under 1. And Trey Turner was also a deal that was made in which they picked up the shortstop of the future from San Diego. And a strike to Holiday.
My favorite player in spring training. He's fun to watch.
Yeah.
He can fly. I mean, flat out fly. Very quick as a shortstop. They say he's got some development to do, but he's a 300 hitter out of NC State. He's been hitting 300 at the minor league level, and again, just 22. But the speed is what got me. He's a leadoff hitter waiting to happen.
1 ball, 1 strike on Holiday. 6-1 Washington. I think if you read the notes in the media guide of the Washington Nationals, they might be able to compete with the 27 Yankees. According to the media guy, this is a spry left-hander with a power arm. As Holiday pops it into right. Shading from the sun, it's Harper, and he makes the catch. I'm with you. I'm a big Dusty fan.
Would you want their media relations department to say, he's an average left-hander, he'll be lucky to get a few years in? Is that what you want him to say about him?
Turn the page. Number 78 is, well, he's no good. Okay, let's go to 80. Overrated, but we picked him up anyway.
Not worth the money. I mean, they're trying to promote their team. Why not?
I get it. Here's Matt Adams.
Speaking of promoting their team, what's going on with the Cubs today?
believe it's postponed.
That's a team with a lot of hype, but living up to it.
0-2 the count on Adams. As he strikes out. Well, so far the media guide is
he's
not been good enough.
He's a spry left-hander with good stuff, power arm, good slider too. They didn't mention that, did they?
No, sir. Rivera was with Tampa Bay at one point in his career. Came up first time in the major leagues last year. 2 outs, and here's Yadier Molina. The positive side, Jaime Garcia finishes the month of April with 35 strikeouts as Molina strokes one to left. Dug out of the corner by Worth. 35 strikeouts, a new single month high for Yadier Molina, or rather for Jaime Garcia.
Yadi continues to swing it. Off-speed pitch down and in. Very good start offensively. And a well-timed day off yesterday for Yadi. Been very durable, as we mentioned. Those 2 runs in the top of the 8th inning, Dan, were tough. The hill was already pretty steep to climb, but got tougher.
Two outs and a runner at second. Here's Brandon Moss. Let's say also a key at bat in this game was in the 4th as Rosenthal is getting loose. But you look at that 4th inning, Moss was up. He was ahead in the count, remember, with 2 runners on, and the Cardinals at that time trailing 4-1. He eventually flied out. See, that's where Rivera can be very tough on the lefties. Occasionally will drop down. 1 ball, 1 strike with 2 outs and a man at second base. Yadier Molina. Steven Piscotty has moved to the on-deck circle.
I cannot recall a month, I'm sure there's been one, where the Cardinals have played less than 500 at home. But if they're not able to come back today, the team drops back to 500 overall with a 5-6 record at home.
Rosenthal was Sunday in San Diego. Took over 30 pitches, but picked up a save. Chevy called to the pen, and as we thought, coming into this contest, one way or another, Trevor Rosenthal was going to pitch. He needs a little work.
And he's been good so far. Picked up his 5th save that last time out. Command has been good. I like to be on record as voting for closers coming in non-save situations don't get their song when they come in. Doesn't fit.
Doesn't build it up. The hype isn't there.
Just maybe it's just a preference. Who do I talk to about that?
Pretty soon you're going to be telling people, get off my lawn.
Just trying to, you're always trying to make the game better, Dan. That's all.
Did you see the enjoyment and the crowd go crazy when he came in? You're missing it. 0-2 in non-save situations. 125 games for Trevor Rosenthal. 6-12 his record, 2.64 ERA. Oh, 2 pitch. Taken just a bit low. Taylor is 0 for 4 today. Struck out back in the second. Popped up down the right field line. Out of play. Trevor Rosenthal bobblehead day here at the ballpark. Over 42,000 here in attendance today. The Cardinals have upped their giveaways by 5,000 this season. So 30,000 fans walk away with the Rosenthal bobblehead. Every team in sports needs to give a percentage of sales to the creator of the bobblehead. There's a strikeout for Trevor.
It was a good move.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. They are popular everywhere. Anthony Rendon on base twice, a walk and a single, lined out to left and also lined out to right. First pitch, strike 1. Scherzer and Martinez tomorrow. Jim Hayes will have all the pregame festivities for you. Quickly 2 strikes. Rosenthal in 7 1/3 has only given up 5 hits. Ground ball up the middle and a base hit. And I think the one thing that you look at in this season so far, teams like Pittsburgh, Chicago, Washington, above 500 teams, the Cardinals have really struggled against those clubs.
And you can see why the Nationals are 15-7. They're a very good team. They've got some good pieces offensively, but you've got to love their bullpen. Everybody coming in is throwing 95, 96.
Harper, double play ball. Taken there by Diaz, steps and throws, double play. We head to the bottom of the 9th. At least she stopped crying. Cardinals as we move to the bottom of the ninth here in St. Louis, and Washington 3 outs away from setting up a potential sweep tomorrow as Sean Kelly is our Chevy called to the pen. Well, the Cardinals have another game in which they play sloppy defense. 3 errors today. Garcia was tremendous after the first inning, but the way that things shake out right now doesn't matter. Cardinals offense has mustered just 1 run.
4 runs yesterday, including 2 runs that came in the 8th inning. Matt Adams had that 2-run home run in the 8th. And the Cardinals have done a good job of scoring late in games. But this is asking a lot here in the bottom of the 9th, but you never know.
Sean Kelly is the new pitcher. First pitch taken for a ball. Kelly has been with Seattle, New York, and San Diego. It was the Yankees he was with. 7-year Major League veteran. Signed a 3-year deal with Washington back in 2015. Look at how Washington is throwing the baseball, and a good bullpen. This is a good team. And as we've talked about, they haven't hit yet. Wait until this lineup comes alive.
This game is not set up very well for the Cardinals either in terms of when those right-handers off the bench have been used. It's just a matter of how the game has flowed that the Nationals have had an answer for the Cardinals lineup. All the right-handers off the bench are at the bottom of the lineup. We've seen Grichuk. There was a Piscotty at bat. Now Jerko and Diaz, who are off the bench, but just has not set up well for the Cardinals and haven't been able to bunch anything offensively.
Go back to September of last season. 14 games for Kelly, 12 innings, only 7 hits, no runs allowed. They talk about a very good sinker with him, tough on righties. Inning before, Rivero looked really good. Saw Trinan last night. Papelbon at the back end of games. It's going to be a good team.
I'm not picking on Papelbon because he's their closer and he has the most experience and he has the most hardware and all that and the most responsibility. But I would say of all the arms we've seen, he's not the best one.
Nope.
At least in terms of stuff.
Where will the numbers be when it's all said and done for Bryce Harper? If he's lucky enough to stay healthy and have a 15-20 year career.
You mean the baseball numbers or the bank account numbers?
Yeah, both. Jerko hits it out to center field. Taylor makes the catch. There's 2 outs. But our player of the game is another outfielder. 4 RBIs today. Budweiser player of the game, Jason Worth, 2 for 3 with a 3-run homer back in the first off of Jaime Garcia. Final hope is a lead miss Diaz for St. Louis. Oh, 2.
I know you're looking forward to me doing my bloop and blast comment right about now, Dan, but I think there are too many bloops needed.
A loop and a blast. By the way, one of your favorites is coming through town on Tuesday. Jeff Suppan.
Oh. Have to get a Suppan word of the day.
Hopefully we'll have the chance to visit with him during our telecast. Here's an 0-2 pitch. Jim Hayes and Al Raboski standing by across the street at Ballpark Village for the postgame show. Reminder, we'll have the postgame show again tomorrow, followed by the Blues postgame show. And Cardinals baseball tomorrow afternoon. 0-2 pitch, and Diaz singles to left field. Zimmerman playing behind Diaz with a 5-run lead. Here's Jeremy Hazelbaker. Fielders indifference. They'll change up the signs now as Diaz puts himself in scoring position.
I'll give these two guys credit. They have made things very interesting on the offensive side. They have driven the offense, meaning Diaz and Hazelbaker at the plate, whether it's coming into a game, pinch hitting, getting a start. They've both been terrific.
Here's an 0-1 pitch. 0-2. By the way, Aledmys Diaz, the second rookie in Cardinals history with 30 hits in April.
The second, you say?
Who do you think the first would be? One, Albert Pujols.
Number 5.
He had 34.
I was going to guess Bo Hart.
April. Remember, he was called up a little bit later.
Good point.
Hazelbaker strikes out. This game comes to a close. Our final 6-1 in favor of Washington. And a great matchup tomorrow. Martinez against Scherzer. She better get that tissue out again.
Unfortunately, things didn't work out for the Cardinals or for our fans here this afternoon. We saw good baseball. Unfortunately, there was too much offense early for the Nationals. That 4-run first inning, the difference in this game.
Post-game show comes your way next.